don't like to use the word different or difference anymore.
Okay.
Because I think in our common vernacular and our current climate, that just leads to a negativity. We have uniquenesses among ourselves. How do we honor and love those areas of uniqueness when they fundamentally mean I'm sitting 5 feet from you, and on this issue that is really important to me, you are on a whole other, not even page, you're in another book on that than I am. And again, that eventually comes to help me understand you. Once I do, I may still disagree with you, but I will get you. You know, I will know you, and I can say, okay, we're not on the same page as that, but I understand why you think that. The faith journey is all about finding out what God gave you, what makes you unique, what makes you special, your God-given gifts. Figure that out, and that's always a moving target through a lifetime in and of itself. But then once you get an idea of what that is, live it. Live it out as fully as you can each and every day for the sake of others and making the world a better place.
Hi, it's my great pleasure to have this morning one of my good friends, Shawn Garvey, Pastor Reverend Shawn Garvey. He's the senior pastor, or do they call it lead pastor? Senior pastor?
Senior,
All right. Of the First Congregational Church of Winter Park, United Church of Christ denomination. But he's so linked in with Rollins College, does a lot of work with students, but also is and has a great history of involvement in the public square. And so because these are about faith and politics or religion and politics, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing the different streams and different approaches of faith leaders when it comes to the public square, especially congregational leaders. So, Shawn, thanks for coming on with me, man.
I'm so excited to be with you, Joel. Thank you. This is exciting.
You're a good man who is good to donate your time. But I know this is not a foreign concept to you, what we're going to be talking about. I was very fortunate to be a part of your congregation a few months ago and hear a wonderful sermon that you gave, not only about the philosophy of approaching matters of civil rights, matters of public engagement for Christians, but also of the history of that particular congregation, and some of your personal history. So I want you to rehearse that, re-say, I mean, you know, tell us kind of where you're coming from personally, and then we'll get into kind of the theology of it.
Okay. I'm born and bred United Church of Christ, New England Congregationalism. I'm from the Boston area. My dad's a UCC pastor, educated at Andover Newton Theological School, both Dad and me, and that's the nation's oldest Protestant seminary, nestled up there in Massachusetts. So sort of the DNA of what New England Congregationalism is has just been part of my life forever. So coming to Winter Park, which was founded by New Englanders, and particularly and specifically New England Congregationalists, when Winter Park was founded in the late 1800s and they wanted to put a church in that little enclave, they made it a New England Congregational Church and brought down Reverend Edward Hooker, also educated at the same seminary as me and Dad, though it had a different name at the time. So the DNA of how the Congregationalists focus so much on Jesus' social gospel, what it means to live a life rooted in who and what God calls us to be for other people, particularly those whom Jesus designated as the least of these, is very much at the heart of my whole experience of growing up in the institution of church. So you talked when you opened about the variance of theological perspectives that you're hoping to gain from doing this. we took a survey not long after I came to the church about what everybody loved about it and what was most important. And on a list of about 15 items, dead last was personal salvation of the soul.
Wow.
Which I found interesting, but I understood it. We often don't approach, especially the Gospels, with a salvific emphasis. Only that if there is a salvific emphasis, it's not on professing a specific belief in a specific person, but rather a pledge, no pun intended, to live a life that Jesus maps out for us. And that life is so focused on the alienated, those who need a voice of advocacy, the poor, the disenfranchised, the oppressed, and being an advocate for others. And through that life, through the living of that, comes salvation, however you define that. I've come over my lifetime to come to better understand that the first couple of hundred years of what we've come to know as the church, up until the Council of Nicaea, was really all about praxis. It was about how you lived. Nicaea showed up and we got the creeds, and then it became more rooted in what do you say about what you believe. And the praxis kind of took a different emphasis in that model then. But we most certainly, for me, and what I try to share in my ministry and in Winter Park, is the faith journey is all about finding out what God gave you, what makes you unique, what makes you special, your God-given gifts. Figure that out, and that's always a moving target through a lifetime in and of itself. But then once you get an idea of what that is, live it. Live it out as fully as you can each and every day for the sake of others and making the world a better place. Because my personal connection with Jesus and my feeling about that is that is what he showed me how to do. And I fail at it miserably all the time, but it's what I'm called to be as one who testifies to follow the way.
So let me ask you this. You're a pastor. I've been a pastor for 55 years. I know that even with the basic general approach to the social gospel, the social part of the gospel, the old saying, there's two things you never discuss in polite company: faith and politics. But yet they're pretty tied together, in your approach.
Absolutely.
How do you handle disagreement? I mean, people are just kind of cantankerous. Even if when they agree with you, they're still kind of cantankerous. I don't like what you said, Pastor, and I don't agree with it. I mean, even if you have just as a congregational leader, a general agreement of this is what we're going to emphasize. We're going to make sure that we pay attention to those that aren't included, that those that are struggling, those that are vulnerable, and so on and so forth. As you approach things in the public square, issues, policies, anything, how do you deal with congregational dissension, or that's probably too strong a term? How do you keep from dividing the congregation over strong statements of what we ought to do?
Yep. My very first Sunday at the second church I served in New Jersey, the United Church of Christ put out an appeal to get signatures from congregations across the country to speak against the current military endeavor that was happening at the time. And that was my first Sunday. And I felt compelled from a denominational standpoint to share that was what the denomination was asking for. Knowing full well, because I had Senator Leanna Brown in my congregation at the time who was on the second President Bush's White House council. I had Dick Cheney's niece in the congregation at the time, though I don't think they held political affiliation in the same way. I honor and value that congregations like ours have a wide swath of political constituency. People may align themselves in a theological way. But that doesn't mean we all vote the same way. And I feel that I have to have a responsibility over knowing that. So I don't. Well, it would be against our congregational polity anyway to tell my congregation what to do.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is, first of all, if I'm in the public square and I'm doing or saying anything, 9 times out of 10, I'm saying it as Shawn and not as I am the voice of First Congregation, because I don't presume to speak for each and every person that's sitting in the pews on Sunday, because I know I could never actually do that. Because we're not all on the same page on a lot of stuff. So I do that first and foremost. I let people know this is coming from me, not the church. Secondly, I really always fall back on Paul's body of Christ allegory, because I think it makes a lot of sense when it comes to how we get involved. Not all of us feel called or compelled to get involved in the same issues in the same way. Some people are called to march. Some people are called to write their elected representatives. Some people, like somebody I know, feels compelled to call our representatives each and every morning and emphatically tell them all the things they're not doing right. Some people feel, and listen, Jesus relied on, and we know who their names were in the Gospel of Luke, relied on being subsidized to continue to do his ministry. So some people feel compelled to be the financial backing for things that, all of those things are part of the puzzle pieces that make it all work. So there's not one avenue into social justice work that I think outweighs any other. They're all important. So at the church, I try to say, find what's yours. And don't discredit it. I really need to go out and do this more or that more. What you're doing matters, and it's how you feel compelled to do it. And when you put all those body parts together, it makes the body whole. So that's sort of the approach we take. In me trying to honor that, we all don't think or vote the same on stuff, but we all feel moved to be involved. Find how you feel gifted to be involved and do that, because it matters.
That kind of introduces another question. How do you help people to hold together both just the strongly felt beliefs? I mean, they're people, and you want that kind of passion. You want that kind of personal passion to do what's right in their thinking. But also, how do you help them be humble enough, be gracious enough, be empathetic enough to not diminish maybe an opponent's view or activity? Maybe an opponent might be a little bit too strong, but no, in a lot of cases, it really is an opponent. How do you help them to respect others, to appreciate what others are doing, even though they disagree?
To remind us almost on a weekly basis that is the truth of the human experience. And that somehow in that Jesus walked right into the middle of it and told us that the greatest things we can do are to love God with everything we are, and in equal measure, love our neighbor, as he quotes Leviticus. And then if you read John, the new commandment, in addition to those two things, love each other the way I loved you. So what is that love, right? It is a love rooted in you use the words compassion, empathy, forgiveness, grace. It's the hardest thing he asks us to do. I mean, to legitimately love those with whom we have profound disagreement on really important things. And we have these vast ideological chasms between us sometimes. You know, to recognize that those ideological differences don't come in out of a vacuum.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a whole life experience that informs us of what our ideologies and our beliefs are.
Right.
In order to love each other in those different, we have to get to know each other. Right. So why do you fly that flag that insults me on the back of your pickup truck?
Yeah.
And it would be very, very easy for me to drive down the street and see you flying that flag and get really angry at you and yell all sorts of obscenities about you behind my steering wheel. But I don't know you.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not flying that flag for no reason. So what's your story?
Yeah.
You know, I think the empathy piece is profoundly missing. And I know we're going to get to what our neck of Florida needs and how.
Well, let's do that because I, you know, you point out the somewhat common, whether it be a flag or bumper stickers. I think we've both pulled up behind cars where they got 15,000 bumper stickers expressing exactly who they are and what they believe and what they stand for. And some of those are going, oh well, okay. And so, what do you think the faith communities have to offer our local Central Florida community? You know, you mentioned ideology, and it's very easy to get stuck in ideology.
Yep.
And you can do that by yourself.
Yep.
You know, but when you start to practice what you believe, you're going to run into people who don't believe what you do. But yet, both of you are trying to, hopefully, make a better community for all of us.
Yep.
And so, what do you think the faith communities, the different faith communities in Central Florida could offer in the public square to the general population that goes beyond their particular beliefs?
Yep. I think, and you mentioned that I do some work at Rollins. Some of the connections I've made on an interfaith basis with our Jewish community, with our Muslim community, there is a strain of compassion toward one another that intertwines the fabric of all of our faith communities, regardless of worship style, you know, what text we read, whatever it is. There's a genuine basis of a foundational basis that we are called to be compassionate to one another and for one another. Then you get into the weeds of how we're different. And whether that's just within the Christian community, that's a whole Pandora's box. But then step outside of that to the wider interfaith community, and it's just magnified. So how do we model that we celebrate with one another the places in which we share commonality, and then, and here's the hard part, lovingly honor and respect where we are unique.
Right.
I don't like to use the word different or difference anymore.
Okay.
Because I think in our common vernacular and our current climate, that just leads to a negativity. We have uniquenesses among ourselves. How do we honor and love those areas of uniqueness when they fundamentally mean I'm sitting 5 feet from you, and on this issue that is really important to me, you are on a whole other, not even page, you're in another book on that than I am. And again, that eventually comes to help me understand you. Once I do, I may still disagree with you, but I will get you. You know, I will know you. And I can say, okay, we're not on the same page as that, but I understand why you think that.
Yeah.
And we can still love each other in those spaces of uniqueness. And I think that's something especially the interfaith community can model, and especially here where we've got a huge diversity of faith expression.
Yeah. You bring up another point when you talk about these conversations that could be happening, hopefully will be happening. Jesus said, if you just love those who love you, I mean, what crap.
Right. That's easy.
Everybody does that.
Right.
So certainly intimating that the goal is to go way beyond that and to find people who don't love you and love them. But that sometimes calls for skills that we haven't been trained with.
Mm.
What kind of training do you think people could gain or curriculum could be devised in order to give people the skills they need to have those kinds of conversations, or at least diffuse the normal reactions that happen, and instead of point counterpoint, point question. Tell me more about that. Tell me some of the kinds of skills, because I think one of the things that the faith community can do is to train their own congregations with those kinds of communication skills. Mm-hmm. If not mediation skills, at least, human listening skills. So what do you think?
Well, you just said the word listening, active listening. Authentic listening first. I don't see it modeled hardly anywhere when I turn the television on. Nobody's really listening to each other, because halfway through what you're saying, I'm already thinking of my response.
Yes, they're waiting their turn to...
Right? Yeah, so let me jump in. Yeah. And if I yell louder than you, I will be heard better than you. So it turns into this shouting match of people not even finishing each other's sentences. Yeah. And so the paradigm for dialogue that we have, especially at high levels of leadership right now, is, in my personal opinion, atrocious, and it has been for a long time. Yeah. So I think how to slow down, how to actively listen. We were talking about Barack Obama a bit ago. One of the things I recognized in his speech pattern, and even just his methodology of response, was that he would take the time to formulate an answer before he spoke. And sometimes that meant he didn't speak on something for a day or two. But even in the cadence of when he did speak, I could see in him this intentionality of his thought process, that I care about the words that come out of my mouth and how they come out of my mouth.
Yes.
And that lends itself to a different kind of speech pattern, as opposed to just this rapid fire. So, and I loved that about him. I know it drove other people crazy. Just say what you mean. He was. But I think we need to take the time to slow down, and social media does us no service in this regard. Slow down, hear each other. Think about what we want to say in response. Good. Take the time to formulate that response, and then lovingly and responsibly give it.
That's good. That's good. One of the commitments we make with the pledge is that I will watch my rhetoric.
Yes.
So that it doesn't incite more. And President Obama was a master at this. In every conversation I had with him, there were openings where he could have run the other side down, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He was always considerate. He was always, not so fast with, just jumping to conclusions here. I think part of that was the outgrowth of his relationship with Michelle, because I never heard either of those say a bad thing about the other one. It was, and they both knew that people were waiting for them to say something negative.
Sure.
And so it was interesting how he was very aware of how his rhetoric could be taken as a trigger to criticize and go negative.
Yep.
And I think we ought to be aware of that too, especially as faith leaders.
Oh, I so agree.
People are looking for some excuse to go negative because it feels so good to be self-righteous and,
And Jesus had something to say about people like that.
Exactly. Especially religious people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really good point. I also think, Shawn, and you're so good at this, you're so gracious, that people are looking for examples of curiosity and learning and kind of the wideness of taking in the world as it is. Again, Jesus had this lesson about the healthy eye, hapless, and it means it's wide open. It sees everything, and instead of the narrow eye, the evil eye that only sees what it wants to see.
Yeah.
And so, say a little bit more about how you, as a faith leader, approach the world as kind of a thing of beauty, kind of a thing of opportunity, a thing of appreciation, and I just, you always have such a positive attitude, at least when I've seen you.
I try to.
Okay, but I just think it's you're such a gracious spirit. Talk about that.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I profoundly know I am not all those things most of the time, but thank you for that. Anyway,
and you're humble.
This
is good too.
Jesus teaches us that, right? Humility is important. None of us is greater than the other. We may achieve great things, but that doesn't make us greater. That's just what life gave us, right? And we need to be thankful for that and treat it responsibly. Gratitude is huge. Because you and I both know, because as pastors, we encounter lives that have a lot, and then in a flash, it changes, or it's gone, or we know this is the reality of the life journey, right? So to be aware and grateful for the blessings we have at any given moment. And yes, it's near impossible with all of the distractions and pressures of life to live in that state 24/7, but take a second and just breathe it in every once in a while, because, man, people have lives very different. First of all. Secondly, that wider eye. I remind myself when I worry that my vision narrows, that one of my very, very favorite stories about Jesus is the Syrophoenician woman, because it's the one example I see in Scripture where Jesus' vision is narrow. This woman screams at him, literally, as the disciples try to keep her quiet and keep her away, and Jesus is ignoring her to heal her daughter. And when he finally responds, his answer is no. And why? Because she's not part of his lane. She's not Jewish. It's not that she's a woman, which, is a strike against her culturally for the time anyway, but you're not in my tribe, and I'm not here for you. And she won't back down until he finally changes his mind. And it's this remarkable moment where his vision is made wider by an outsider. And I think that's such a testament to the humanness of him and his ability to be changed by that which almost everybody would have said to him, don't pay any attention to her. So that moment for me is a constant lesson to me that if Jesus can be open to have his mind changed by that which he might initially have said no, I need to do that too. So And when you find ways to do that, and it's not always easy, and it takes a tremendous amount of patience and stick-to-itiveness and faith, the world becomes far richer. Because when you do start to relate to people in those unique spaces that does make the world so large. I mean, we love to talk about the diversity of creation all the time, but sometimes that diversity becomes profoundly problematic for us, right? But that's how God made it.
Yes.
So engage in it, even when it drives you nuts or it scares you or you fundamentally don't understand it, and figure out why and learn in that. And then you make all sorts of amazing friends and connections and experiences that you otherwise wouldn't have had.
That's how we grow.
Yep.
That's how we grow.